afternoon. This is Neil with Simpler Futures, and today is Wednesday, January the 18th. A little bit of a pullback today in the S&Ps and, in the market overall. I mean, the S&Ps are down like 1.5%, but don't forget that as recently as yesterday, we were up 5% on, year to date, and it's only January the 18th. So, a little pullback today. So here's what I've got on screen for you to kind of take a look at and think through. From the lows recently, very recently down here, 38, 20 we were not too long ago. And rallies up to a high recently of yesterday, and I got close to that this morning too. So basically late yesterday and early this morning, 40.35. So if you pull fib from that low to swing high, you see the 382 retraces 39.50, and there was this gap from Tuesday into Wednesday's trade of last week, right? And that gap was at about 40, call it 5, maybe 44.5, and that's the low for today, right? So really what it's done is pulled back a 382 retrace of the overall uptick and closed the gap. So now, what is today? Wednesday, right? Midweek shuffle, what? So, it's tough because remember I gave you the plan last week, wait for a pullback into about 39.30, and it traded 44 today, closed the gap at a low for the week on a Wednesday. So here's what I've done. Here's what I'm doing. And here's what I'm allowing for. I've started working today SPX long bullish biased, they're call SPX call butterflies out on that February expiration time frame up at like 4,100. All right. So what I started with today was I started some 25 wide that started filling at like $1.25, I think. But what I'm also doing that has not filled yet is I'm working some 50 wide at like 3.5, but for that to fill, we're going to have a little bit more of a pullback. So that basically, if you take all that, put it together, what I've said is this, be at the low for the week on a Wednesday, it was enough for me to start some exposure that did fill. It's a live position now, the 25 wides. But what I'm also doing is allowing for a little bit more pullback potential that can come back into that original idea that I was giving you of this 39.30. And you know what? We need to update that. We need to make it look at what we know now. We had in mind already that we were looking at like 39.30. But look at what we know now. There's a half back. We did not know because we didn't know the extent of the uptick yet. Now that we have the uptick, we also know that the half back is at 39.25. So that means that the original idea of like 39.30, we're going to adjust a little bit to 39.25. And that's where we're going to try to, what I'm going to do, and I'm proposing the idea that we're going to try to finish establishing the long exposure for the February OPEX time frame and a 4,100 target in SPX. Okay, so phase one of this is nearly complete, and that is the anticipated wait for a rest, i.e. pullback. I don't know that it's complete. I know that it's very possible that it is because it says the low for the week on a Wednesday and it filled the gap. So it's very possible that could be the low of the retrace. But I'm leaving room, as I've discussed. I'm leaving room for a little bit more, even if it takes a few days. I'm working on GTC, so even if it takes a few more days to see the little bit deeper retracement, then the idea is to add by increasing the bullish exposure and putting on some additional and those will be even wider. Those will be 50 wide for quite a significantly more potential upside potential in the event that this kind of follows through and actually works, right? So there's a Wednesday update for you. I think if nothing else, it's a good thing, obviously, that the patience here pays, that you don't get fear of missing out, the FOMO, and you start jumping in, adding long, chasing it all the way up, and next thing you know, it pulls back 1.5%, and it's crawling all over you. See, so the patience is the idea here. Wait for the pullback. It's a nice move, but ask yourself, do you still like the upside? I do, right? But that doesn't mean that if you're not in, this is a place to get in. It doesn't mean that if you are in, it's a place to add. It simply means that if you're in and long from lower, then you can hold. But if you're looking for a place to either get in or add, then the high of a move is not the place for that. At that time, it makes sense to try to be patient, wait for a retracement that you can make sense of as being reasonably enough, and that's where you either initiate or add, depending on where you stand in the overall move. So this is the step one right here, and step two could be a little lower, like I just pointed to, that 39.25. That's only a 5-point adjustment from a higher time frame view dating all the way back in the last week, so that's really not much of an adjustment. It's only a couple points. Okay, look, that's it. That's what I got for you. Be good. Take care, and I'll see you again at the next update. Good night.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency. It's one of the things that won me